Good evening. It's Friday. It's Fans Forum. We've not done this for donkey's years, it feels like. But obviously it's not donkey's years. It's just a few months. We are back. Friday Night Forum. Listen, there's been so much going on with the World Cup, and there was no World Cup at all today. So I turned around to Uncle Connor and I said, you know what, mate? How about we put some Man United content on the Man United channel? And he said, that's a great idea, Barry. So there we are. Here we are with the Manchester United Women's Podcast. It's the best one. Don't watch it. It's there. We've been around for ages. And we have got a cracking panel this afternoon. So, Sarah is the first one. Hello, how are you?
Hello, all good, thanks.
Loving life. I'm obviously very sad, obviously, about Ireland not doing as well as they could have done in the World Cup. How have you taken it?
Yeah, it's disappointing, but you know, overall, I think we've played really well, and I'd be very hopeful for the future when it comes to qualifying for more tournaments. So very proud of them. I think the whole country is.
Absolutely. I would agree with that as well. We also have Big Johnny K sat in the bottom right, often seen on the Saturday Night Live with the men's channel. But we've transferred him back over here, which is where he started, really. John, how are you getting on, sir?
I'm very well, thank you, Barry. Yes, I've not been on the women's show, I think, for a couple of months now, I don't think. So towards the end of last season. So, but yeah, we're good to be back on. I hope everyone's well.
Excellent. Yeah, we're all good. And you would have noticed, the eagle-eyed amongst you, that we have a debutante, something that we're hoping we're going to be able to say about Manchester United a little bit later on. But just below me here, we have Mark. We described him as a seasoned veteran, having had our conversation earlier on. But he's written for, you said, the Barmy article, you've written for Sarah's stuff. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Mark. What got you into the love of Manchester United?
All right. The Dockside in the mid-70s, Tommy Dockside. I'm actually from over in sort of a part of the world that is dangerously close to Merseyside. And I actually went to a primary school right on the Merseyside border, where almost everyone was a Liverpool fan, a few Everton fans here and there. And I saw the Dockside on the telly, and I just thought, nah, that's for me. And that was it. The love just began from there, really. And then, obviously, with the women's side, it's added another dimension to that in the last few years.
Absolutely, the women's side has 100% done that. But listen, good to have you along, and thank you for joining us. And hello, everyone in the comments who's thrown out their hellos. Great to have you here too. So the premise of today is patience or panic. And the world will know that I will just go with patience, and whatever happens, happens. And, you know, you've just got to try and support the team as best as you can. But the statistics and the facts do not lie. And that's something we are here to dissect and then chew upon over the next few minutes and work out really what's going on, because it feels a bit different this summer. It does feel different when you consider how good it was to end the season the way that we managed to be in the situation that we're in now, with potential Champions League football coming our way. To be in the situation we're in at the moment feels a little bit tricky. So Red Reveal brought out a statistical chart, shall we say, which pointed out the amount of players we've usually signed by August the 1st, historically. Now, it did make me laugh, I had to say, because it's gone all the way up to 2018, 2019. And as the season, people of you will know, that was the year that Man United Women was reformed. So they've actually put on there that by August the 1st, we'd signed 21 players, which was a good job, really. Otherwise, we'd have had no team. So I'm going to discount that one. We can't be talking about signing 21 players when you've started with nothing. But the 4 seasons after that, we signed 5, 4, 5, and 5. So here we are today with just one, according to them. Now, I will argue that, yes, we did sign Gemma Evans, but also we did sign Evie Rabjohn towards the end of last season, and she has now been confirmed. So if you go to the official website, it would be 2, really, rather than 1. But either way, when you look at the 9 that have gone, have we really replaced like for like? You've got Anna Battier, Alessia Russo, Tara Vaughan, Jade Moore, Emily Ramsey, Tunkara, Estelle Cascarino, Neve Murphy, and of course Chloe Williams. So all of those have left the club. Are you worried, Sarah? That's 9 out, 2 in, and the season's about a month away.
Yeah, I am a little bit worried. I mean, it's not nice when you go on social media and you see the news of seemingly every other club in the WSL bringing in all these new players. But at the same time, I don't think it's panic stations just yet. I know it kind of goes against, the trend of the last few years, but we have had a World Cup on, and so it's tricky to bring in new players during that. I know people will argue that the Euros last year, we still had managed to make new signings. I think a couple of them probably arrived pretty much straight away after getting knocked out, after their countries got knocked out. I think that was the case with Garcia. So it'll be interesting to see what happens now with the group stages over and some of the teams that have exited the competition. So that'll be interesting. So I don't think it's worth panicking just yet, but it is a little bit, I would say, frustrating, maybe more so than concerning. I think we all just want to see, who's going to come in, and then for me, I think a striker is the obvious one that we really need to bring in. I mean, we were lucky enough to have so many players contributing goals last season, which was great to see. But you do need that sort of that goal poacher, and I think that's what we're missing right now. So that's what I'd like to see as soon as possible.
Muted, Barry.
Thank you. Very helpful. There's me happily talking away to myself there. I was saying this is Connor. It's not just us. It's not the official AFU WFC opinion on this one. Although you could argue it's his channel, so maybe it is. But there we go. He said he's worried. The excuse can't be because the World Cup is on. Clubs are making signings. The Euros was last summer, and earlier we'd made 4 or 5 by this time last summer. 5, in fact. Had you been listening to the beginning of the show there, Connor, you'd have heard that number. We'd signed 5 by this point last summer. But, John, Annabella in April show, which sounds absolutely amazing, says it's reasonable to say, is it reasonable to take into account the fact that actually the season is going to be starting slightly later because of the World Cup? So maybe we're trying to see who shines. And I thought about this and wondered, is it also from the other people's point of view, from their point of view? Are they trying to see if they shine? Because if they do, maybe there might be other clubs that come in for them other than just Manchester United. John?
Yeah, I think that's possibly. And I think in comparison to other years, obviously we've never been in this position where we have got Champions League football. The World Cup possibly has had an effect in terms of signings. And like you say, last summer we did get a lot of transfers here, but although it's worth saying a lot of those transfers were free transfers as well. So it's a bit harder to negotiate with clubs. I don't know when we got Letitia, but I think she might have been before the Euros, if I remember rightly. And Paris was during the Euros or around that time. So I think that you are going to attract some, bigger names now that you got Champions League. Obviously, we had a couple mentioned the Brazilian people, and when you're attracting that higher quality player, and most of them will probably be at the World Cup, it'll take time now that Brazil are out the World Cup. Are we going to sign, one of the Brazilians? Maybe, I don't know. So I think the club has perhaps been a bit stung as well. For obviously, we had a feeling owner might go, but I think Russo, the way that was handled wasn't ideal. So, from thinking you might have Russo's strikers were suddenly going, you got to start looking at who's a capable replacement. And so possibly they were not prepared for that. Possibly, I think you can also read into it. There's no long news going around at the moment. Maybe it's because journalists are at the World Cup and there's not much to report and that kind of thing. It could be that the club is quietly going about its business behind the scenes, but I wouldn't say it's panic stations just yet. But I think you got to start bringing in a few players over the next month. So obviously our first game is 1st October, is it? I think. So I don't know when our pre-season starts, but we've certainly got to start signing a few players over the next few weeks or so.
There's rumours in the chat that pre-season is going to be starting on the 7th, being started by young Ellie there. She's also saying, though, to be fair, I am to come back for another season and retire with us. So I'll take everything that Ellie says with a pinch of salt, if I'm honest with you on that. I can't quite see that one happening right now. Mark, it's mad, isn't it? I mean, look, Chelsea, as Jennifer says, they're signing anyone worth signing before anyone else wakes up. You know, they've just literally, it's like the person who's got all the money in Monopoly, just go wandering around and go, I'll buy that, whatever they land on, not bothered whether it actually helps them or not. But what's your take on how the United women are getting on with their transfer window at the moment? Because it's a lot of outs and not a lot of ins.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not panicking yet, because as already been said, you know, it's a late start to the season. 1st of October is a long way away. Having said that, you know, I did feel that major step forward last season into the Champions League qualification match, at least, felt we needed, not necessarily to improve the squad with a lot of players, but to get 2 or 3 players at least of real quality. Because I think last season we had a good first 11 with a couple of players who could come in and do a job. We didn't. If we'd had a few injuries last season, I think we'd have been in trouble, as we have been in previous seasons. That's got to be strengthened. We can't, you know, we're not going. You can't guarantee you're going to be that lucky with injuries. And I think for me, there's clearly a lot of players in the squad who, for whatever reason, Mark does not see as potential first choice players. So to me, we definitely need a few players challenging for that first team, particularly with Leslie going. I do think we signed Jade Riviera with a view to this season anyway. I would in some ways see her as a new signing this season. We knew that Honor was likely to go on a Batia, and we signed Jade with that in mind. So yeah, I'm a bit concerned. But at the same time, I'm not going to panic yet. We are 2 months away almost from the season. I think sometimes, yeah, you can do it and you can make quick signings, but sometimes it's good to stand back a little bit, make some inquiries, see where the land lies. We're not. I mean, we're still trying to barge into the big group here. We did very well last season to get 2nd place, even though I felt gutted at the time we didn't win something, given the season that we had. Chelsea and Arsenal are established sides at this level. We're still trying to barge in. And I suppose the slight worry you've got is, are we still seen as a serious prospect by the kind of players that we're going to want to get to the next level in the women's game?
Very fair points, very fair points. And Sarah, what Mark says there is spot on, really, isn't it? We did buy Jade Riviere. We knew that she had an injury, so she wasn't going to be walking straight into our team. We knew it was going to be months before she was available. And although she caught the end of the season, is obviously now at the World Cup, as it stands, Honor has gone. And so as a result, we're left still with a right back, and a pretty quality one at that point. I mean, it's not Honor, but it never will be. She was in our hearts with that one. But another good point made as well by Ellie. She said that Lisa could be a massive player too. She's another one who only got a little bit of game time because obviously she got the injury. And then she was out for a bit. So we've got a couple of players there already who we're looking at and saying, well, actually, they're almost like new signings. Aoife Mannion's obviously re-signed, and she missed a heck of a lot of last season due to her injury as well. So that's almost like a new signing. But is it because of the fact it's arguably 2 of our highest profile players, except for Ella Toon, obviously, who is, contracted till something like 3,094, I think was the latest one. But when you get Honor and you get Russo leaving, they're 2 very big names. And, especially Russo going to Arsenal as well in the end. Where do we stand on this? And especially on what High Lane's put here. He's worried because the knock-on effect that a bad window could have, you've got someone like Mary Earps insisting that we need to invest at the end of the season. A lot of players were contracts ending this season. We've just done the extension. if we have a poor window here, could we be in a situation where it's not just 2 people leaving at the end of next season? You know, we could almost have a mass exodus of players if we don't start seeing the club being a bit more serious about some of the players.
Yeah, I think that would be the worry. It's a good point as well with Mary, because we really don't know what the long-term future is for her with the club. But it's understandable that, you know, these are ambitious players and they want their team, they want the club to invest. You want to be like, yeah, it's great that we're in the Champions League, but you want to be pushing as far ahead as you can now. You want to be challenging for the title. Obviously, we came close last season, but the aim now, I think, for everybody is going to be, we want to win this, and, you know, winning a cup as well would be nice. So yeah, I think this window will really be make or break, I think, for a few players. It's I would be worried about that. We need to be seen to be investing and getting the players in that we need. It won't be good enough to say, oh, didn't we do really well last season and we're not going to capitalize on that. So yeah, that would be a worry for me.
Yeah, no, for sure. Ellie, I just need to tell you, Marty's not been on the show for a very long time. We've missed her background. We might see if I can find that at some point. But yeah, you know, ever since she hurt her arm, hopefully we'll see her one day in the future. But yeah, no Marty for a while. John, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because again, all of these players going out, Ellie's put here, you know, we can't keep young talent either. Evie and Grace might be going on loan this season. It's possible that a lot of the youngsters will, but it's not like the men's game, is it? Where we get the youngsters in and they seem to play straight into the first team. Here we don't see it quite so much. I mean, Kira Barry's just signed her first ever professional contract today. And here we are still in a conversation which we need to be serious about, because if we don't have a good window, it could be a problem. But then equally, are we just too focused on that? Because we spent an entire year saying, Russo and I will stay if we make Champions League, and that didn't happen. So is it just a case of actually we haven't got a bleeding clue what it is we're talking about, and we should perhaps just let the people that do deal with it?
Well, I think that, I mean, you can't stress I mean, I've followed United's reserves and linked to the first team in the men's side of things for over 20 years. And, you know, it's very hard to, the gap between, you know, academy level out on the 23s or on the 21s to the first team men's game is a big gap, and it's much the same with the women's game. You know, I think it's like you look, like you mentioned about Chelsea, like all the players there inherited, you know, they made another signing today, you know, a couple of $100,000, and all of a sudden she might not be a guaranteed starter, and this is what you're up against. So you don't want to throw them in the deep end, and you never mind about the traditional top 3. I know we broke into it, City, Arsenal, and Chelsea, but, you know, Villa are investing as well, you know, and, you know, Tottenham might as well. And you can't just put them into a deep end there. You got to make sure that you're ready. Now, I would like to see more of a combination. And the other factor is you don't actually play that many games at women's level as well. It's not like the men's game where you like playing 2 games a week. Virtually in the women's game, it's like most weeks you only play 1 game usually, unless you're in Europe or, you know, that kind of thing. So for me, it's to allow you for chance, you got to be extra special, I feel. And I would like to see perhaps more of a link, because I think it's obvious with the men's team that Ten Hag's trying to bring some of the youth through, and see it. You've seen it with Garnacho. Looks like Mainu might come through, so he's trying to bridge that gap between academy level and the first team. I don't know what Mark's relationship is like with the academy, but hopefully he's trying to do much the same in that. But you've also got to factor in like we're still trying to reach the top goal, and you know, and we're not quite there yet. And I think you got able to demonstrate that, and you got to have the right players to support them. And, you know, we've got a few quality players, as you mentioned. We've lost So you need to get quality in to replace him. Unfortunately, there won't be anyone from the academy who can replace Russo or can replace Sony. You've got to have the right people, right mentality to bring these youngsters in, and it does take time. It won't. It's not a sudden thing. It will take 2 to 3 years probably before you establish, and then you can maybe start integrating some of the academy. Now, I know we obviously have some players in the first team that have come from the academy, but you still got to have the base in order to for potential to flourish.
Can't disagree with that too much at all. Jennifer, you've won comment of the night already for this one. So if United do not show the love, players will not stay. I think what you meant to say there was second is not good enough. But the reason I bring that up is because that word is amazing. Seconditis. I don't know if it's a word, but that could be something we end up with. Just imagine it. If we don't finish again.
It's like a medical episode.
Exactly. I love it. I love it. I'm seeing it. Seconditis. It could be something that we have if we never get there again. We're all just like, remember that time we finished second? You've got seconditis. It's awesome. It's literally my favourite part. That's why I had a little smile during what John was saying there. That's absolutely made my evening, that one. Love that. Yeah. Now, I was going to ask Mark, but he's disappeared. I'm sure he'll be back in a second. But we're going to talk a little bit about Kirsty Hanson as well, because obviously she's had a standout season at Aston Villa. Absolutely superb. Put up some amazing numbers in the WSL. And obviously, within seconds of her returning, we're getting the knowledge that she very well might be on her way off to Aston Villa. So, Mark, this was a question we were going to throw to you. Kirsty Hanson, superb season last season, looking like, if the rumours are to be believed, she might be another one to go out the door. I know we're in a situation where really all of the people that have left so far, only 2 of them were really first team players. The rest of them didn't really touch the first team all that often. But are you a bit more surprised about Kirsty Hanson? Because I did feel there was a chance that she could come back and fight for a position, whether that be to swap with Leah Goulton on the left, where she's had such a successful season with Villa, or to battle for that right-hand side slot that still didn't seem to be nailed down by anybody.
I'm disappointed. I was disappointed last season that we let her go on loan, to be honest. And I'm sorry that I keep disappearing, by the way. I've got a bit of a bad connection tonight. But yeah, I felt like it's the one, I try and see all decisions from the point of view of, what's the manager up to? What are we trying to do? But I really felt last season Kirsty could have been a very good squad player for us and given us something different, either on the right or down the left. And comes back to what I said before, we were a bit lucky with injuries last season. And yeah, we had a few replacements in those wider positions as well. But Kirsty, I've always rated really highly and would have liked to see her stay. By the sound of it, she wants to stay at Villa, and I don't blame her. She's first choice there. She's somebody who can really establish herself in what is a very good Villa side. So I am disappointed. I'd like to have seen her stay with us, and I'd like to see her for next season as well. But it's one of those situations. I certainly can't blame her for wanting the almost guaranteed first team place she's got at Villa. And good luck to her if she decides to. I think she's someone I'll always be very fond of as one of those original players who started all this off.
No, absolutely. I spent an entire half a season trying to get #Hanson in trending, but All for United did not help me and support me on that matter at all. Well, I did cheer very much when she was coming on, so that was good. Another name that's being thrown out here by Ellie and Blue Black 01. I don't know that name, but okay, welcome, nice to have you. Is Ivana Fuso. I can't personally see her coming back and doing anything at the club, but Sarah, would you see an opportunity for Fuso to return and do anything?
It's hard to say. I don't really think so. I mean, I think we spoke about she was obviously on loan in Germany last season, and I don't think any of us really had seen much of her, or she wasn't getting the game time or something. But yeah, that I don't think that bodes very well. So I would be surprised if she kind of came back and broke into the team, I wouldn't be surprised at all if we did sell her to somebody.
I think you're pretty much spot on there. Jennifer pointing out Kirsty had Nobbs and Daly with her on the field and Carla Ward to guide her. If that brings out her excellence, let her go. I'm not sure how much I agree with that statement. If it's bringing out excellence, I want it at our club rather than letting them go. But on a human level, absolutely. If it's the right thing for her to have a move, then absolutely. The king has spoken. Not this king, by the way, not the Elvis one, the king of all for United. And he has said, Fuso did all right in Germany, spoke to a few people who watched the week in, week out, so she wasn't bad, but wasn't incredible. So maybe a squad player who knows. Well, if anyone does, Connor, it's you. So feel free to let us know in the chat if you want. But personally, I can't see it. So, I mean, as it stands, the first 11 doesn't seem, going back to what Mark said earlier on, the first 11 doesn't really sound too bad, does it? If you were to think about it, you'd still have Mary Earps in goal. You still have Blundell, Turner, Maya Letitia and Riviere as your back four, which I think we'd all take, no problem whatsoever. You still have Zellerman Ladd as your central two. You'd still have Ella Toon in front of those. You would potentially be in a situation now where you'd have Galton, Paris, and either Martha Thomas or Rachel Williams. John, how does that 11 sound for you? Because that seems all right, but it's still the depth, isn't it? When you then start looking at the bench, who do you bring on when we need those game changers? And is that really where we're sort of struggling at the moment? We need to improve that bench, and that was what we were missing last season.
Yeah, I mean, we do have a bit of depth in certain positions. Like we got a few good centre halves, haven't we? In that, obviously, we could do with do we have a right back aside from Riviera? Is she the only one, or because I know that?
If you are Serena Wiedmann, Maya Letitia is only a fullback. So
right, fair enough. So, yeah, no, I mean, we got some depth in some positions. I mean, obviously, we mentioned Lisa and that. So we do have. I mean, we're not seeing much of her, so we don't know whether she'll be right. Hopefully, she will. And up top, obviously, we know Rachel Williams is. A super sub, isn't she? So, and that's how she should remain. And that Martha Thomas is the backbench of the women's team. I think, bless her, because I think she'll work hard. She'll run her socks off, but she won't exactly be prolific in front of the goal, will she? But no way. So Martha's a good squad player to have, but you need more than that if you want to compete for the big trophies. You need the goals. And I think that perhaps we could possibly do with a more combative midfielder. I would say, apart from that, I would say we got good cover in most positions. Obviously, the right wing spot, we got Paris and Garcia, which are two very good players. Obviously, Martha Thomas sometimes plays on the right as well. So for me, I don't think we're particularly that far off, but I think we obviously need to strengthen in certain positions.
No, absolutely. Jennifer saying that team that I listed out there is more than good enough. Whereas Highlane says he thinks going from Russo to Thomas or Williams as your starting number 9 is a downgrade. Do you know, if you'd have said that to me at the start of last season, I'd have totally agreed with you. But having seen how Rachel Williams performs when she's in those games, you know, you just know you're going to get 100% out of her every single time. And she has got the ability. You know, let's not forget that goal where she shifted the ball right, shifted it right again, and then smashed it into the top corner. So she's no slouch, Rachel. So it could be a good player, but I generally tend to agree with needing another striker.
She's a plasterer. She covers the cracks.
It's going to be in his next article. Forty saying you've lost quality with Russo and Honor from the starting 11. We wanted to add more, not just replace those, which Connor agrees with. He also says we'll get a striker in, 100%, but it might just take a bit of time. Mark, where do you stand on that? Obviously, losing Russo wasn't ideal, but looking at what we would have had on the bench anyway, Martha Thomas, Rachel Williams, even Garcia or Paris potentially. How do you feel about any of those starting?
Good honest players. Rachel Williams, if she was 10 years younger, yeah, sadly, she's at the wrong end of her career. I can't see her doing it on a regular basis. She's great off the bench, and she's the kind of intelligent player you can bring off the bench. Who'll have watched the game, who'll have observed it, and she's great in that role. I don't see her as a starter. I'll be honest, I thought even if Russo didn't leave, I still felt, and I don't know how many people share this opinion, possibly nobody, I still felt we needed a proper number 9. I'm not sure Russo is. I should probably, it's dangerous saying this, isn't it? She'll probably knock in 30 a season for Arsenal now, but I don't see her as someone who's the kind of prolific goal scorer in a kind of Sam Kerr or Rachel Daly mode. She's great. I mean, she's a cracking player, and I'm not going to pretend otherwise. I'm gutted that she's left. I maybe saw her in the future running the right channel a bit more. And I would actually like somebody who was a more traditional number 9, which I think Rachel Williams is when she comes in. Somebody who finds those spaces in the box, scores ugly goals, tap-ins, what have you. That's the kind of player that I think I would like us to. I'd absolutely love Rachel Daly at the club. Somebody like that, I think, is what we're crying out for. And I'd have said that even if Russo had stayed.
Perhaps we can swap Hanson for Daly. That would be an interesting one. Keep everybody happy.
I'd say I'd bite your hand off for Rachel Daly any day.
No, I think I would agree with that as well. There's a lot of people saying, though, Rachel Williams can't do it every single week. But Sarah, I'd go back to what John said, which is this is the WSL we're talking about here. You know, she doesn't need to play the Conti Cup games because March can already show that he didn't really care about that last season. So I'm sure he won't care about it this season either. But there's only 22 games to play. And that's spread over such a long amount of time. Do we not think that she could, if she really wanted to? Because she's a tank. I would guess about Rachel Williams. You know, she's diminutive by all parts of the imagination. But my goodness, she just sort of morphs like a transformer when she gets on that pitch. And you just wouldn't mess about with her. So, you know, but where do you stand on the attacking options? Do you think we do need somebody else? I don't think anybody's saying that we don't. But could Rachel Williams do the job if we needed her to?
I think she could do the job. I mean, the ability's there, the experience is there. She was fantastic last season, scored some brilliant goals. But I agree with Mark. She is, you know, unfortunately at the tail end of her career. And like, I can see her starting some games, absolutely. But every game, I'm not sure. And she's spoken about, you know, about her role, how she sees her role in the team. She's happy coming off the bench. She kind of seems to have the understanding that that's what is needed from her, and she's happy with that. So yeah, I rate her very highly. You know, she's fantastic, but I don't know, I think I would see Garcia as a starter. You know, she's a fantastic goal scorer. I thought, you know, she's brilliant signing for us. So I'd put her in the starting 11 any day. So I think that's a name that's worth considering as well. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Rachel Williams, but I don't know if I can see us being that reliant on her as a starter.
No, I think that seems to be the common theme. Lots of people agreeing with Stuart Barker, who's come in just to shout out Alexandra Pop, which would be, of course, an amazing signing. I don't understand kind of who you're saying no to on this one, saying that you need at least 2 strikers. We've already said Thomas and William, that is 2. Don't know if you're struggling with the accounting there. But I'm not entirely sure who you're arguing with on that one, so you might have to help me out on that. Johnny K, last question really on this before I move the conversation on. If you could bring somebody in, who would it be?
Realistically, or if I had magic money tree?
I think we're going to have to go realistically on this one. The Magic Money Tree show was a few weeks ago.
Realistically, what would I bring in? I don't know. I think Who's that Brazilian one we were in with? Sorry, I can't
Carolyn,
remember.
Carolyn or Giza?
Yeah, I get Irving. So I don't know how. Obviously, I've not been paying attention to the transfer talk. So
It's all right,
that's
mate. Neither is Mark Skinner.
so I have to go with sorry. So yeah.
All right. Well, there we go. Listen, we have taken patience or panic, and to be honest with you, you can choose whichever you want, patience or panic, but you might as well pick patience because absolutely nothing any of you lot or us have got to say is going to make the blind bit of difference to what Man United do and when they tell us. So for your own safety and sanity, I'll just sit and watch and enjoy the World Cup while you still can, and then maybe wait.
Sanity's long gone with this club in the last few years. I'm afraid that went out the door a long time ago.
We can try. We can try. Yes. Do you know what? The minute I said it, I remembered it was pronounced Jay-Z. But there you go. I'm just not with it. Pop's an easier one, so we'll go for that one. I hate calling her Jay-Z because then I feel like I've gone into some sort of hip-hop type music that I just don't listen to normally. So
there'll be some interesting headlines if we sign Jay-Z. Yeah.
I used to call it JZ.
And so you should, because it is the letter Z, not Z. They do that at school now.
Disagreement with my wife on that one.
Honestly, I don't know what's happening, John. There's children now who are calling like the letter Z, as you've just said. They're saying that when you need to call the emergency services, they want to call 911. And it's like, no, 999. And they're calling trousers pants. Like, what is happening?
Not to forget football, soccer.
But that will never happen. Not on my watch. But anyway, Mark, I've deliberately brought it round to you for this particular part of the question because you've literally just put an article up on, I'm going to say it wrong again, Red Devil Women. It's just that, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's it, Red Devil Women. There's no blog at the end. See, but it is a blog. So you've just put one on there, which is Sarah's rather wonderful website. Please do go and have a look. But it's all about Katie Zellum, I do believe. So I wondered if you might tell us a little bit about how you feel Katie Zellum is going to be, how important she's going to be moving into next season, specifically with the way that she's been performing already in the World Cup. The fact that she's been put in on instead of Kira Walsh, obviously, due to her injury, that's got to be a good thing that we are seeing Katie Zellum now being pushed even further and showing that she can mix it with the big girls and not just those of the WSL.
Yeah, well, I think she'll continue to do very well for us. I've always been, I've always, I've argued with some people about Katie in the past who sometimes felt she wasn't worth a regular place in the United team and only had it because she was the captain. But for me, she's a superb all-round central midfielder. And what I've always said about Katie is that even if a performance dips below standard on occasions, she's still the most likely player for us to play that killer pass and set something up. And she's done it before for us. And I think as well as a passing ability, she gives us a lot of leadership in the centre of the field, which we, look at the men's team for years before Casemiro, if you want an example of what you miss if you don't have a leader in the middle of the field. Katie's done that. And I think sometimes her role in there is undervalued by some of the fans I speak to anyway around Leigh Sports Village. And I just think she's a solid rock for us and somebody. You need a spine for the team, don't you? And that's the thing. We're talking about losing our number 9, which is a problem for us, and we have a massive problem if we lost Mary Earps. You need that spine. You need, if other people come and go, the spine, I think, is the important thing, and Katie's a really, really important part of that spine. So for me, go from strength to strength, the kind of player who I think will age like a vintage wine. I think she'll be doing it for many years, hopefully, because she clearly feels, the signs are she feels very committed to the club, which is a great thing as well.
Totally agree. You're welcome back on any time you like after saying that. Well done. But yeah, I couldn't agree more. Interestingly, Hylane said he was very impressed and delighted she got the chance, but she can't be expected to play every single minute of the season the way she's going to try to have her do last season, because her performances do get impact. I'd still argue that doesn't happen. I maybe I'm just entirely blind to this, but it's 22 games. I'm not.
Yeah, no, if I just come in on that, I totally agree with you on that point. I think sometimes you can't swap and change too much in the win. You haven't got that many games to play with. It's not like a kind of intense season like the Premier League. And I totally agree with what you're saying on that. I think it's only 22 games. They have enough gaps as well because of internationals, and they're not going to get burnt out. I mean, they might get burnt out. They play too many internationals as well, which may be an issue for Katie in the future. It hasn't been in the past, but totally agree. Chance of burn. They shouldn't be getting burnt out after that many games.
No. There we go. Happy day. So you can definitely come back on because he's agreeing with me now. It's even better.
Thank you.
Sarah, let's see if you're going to agree with me as well. Because it's not just her role at Manchester United that is so important. She's also grown, obviously, like we just said, she's turning out for the Lionesses now. But also, she's now on the players board of the PFA as well. So her standing within the whole game as a leader is really starting to come through, isn't it? And I think, I don't know, I just think she's really undervalued by some of our fans. They just really don't seem to understand not just what a great player she is, but what a great human she is as well, in the way in which she's trying to bring the game forward, really inspire younger people as well, but also to do her best for all of the people around her. That just seems to be the Katie Zelem that I see.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously why she's captain. She's got all those qualities and personality traits. And I'm really baffled the way, I mean, obviously Mark spoke about, what he's heard fans say at the games, and then some of what you see online as well. I don't get it. I mean, there was one game last season, I think it might have been Spurs. I remember saying that she had made quite a few mistakes and, maybe she should have been sobered off. But I mean, every player has those moments, and you can't just, I think she got a lot of unjust criticism, because she's certainly not the only player who's had, a bit of an off day. So I just think, it's not justified. She's just her performances, she's so consistent generally. I mean, it's not as if she's, out there making mistakes all the time. That would be quite out of the ordinary for her. So I'm delighted that, I mean, I say this obviously as a non-England fan, but for her, I'm delighted for her that she's got her chance in the World Cup to make a difference. And I hope that that continues, because her qualities are so overlooked. I mean, just to bring in, obviously Ireland's tournament highlight was that Katie McCabe goal, and everybody was quick to compare it to what Zelem does. And I think that speaks volumes. Not enough people talk about those things, and for some reason she's not one of the first names that people bring up in terms of, the quality players that we have and just in the league generally. So, yeah.
No, absolutely. I think, Blue Black here said Zelem's my favourite player for many reasons. Glad she's our captain. Highland said, don't get me wrong, I'm all with you on the fact the disrespect she gets from certain sects of the fan base uncalled for. Just thinking on the need to avoid burnout like Toons. But again, as we said, Toon was playing every game for England as well. So I think that's where the difference comes in. If you're going to be playing your internationals, as Mark said, then yes, there's absolutely a chance of that. But that's not something we've been seeing from Katie due to the fact that Kira Walsh has been so good. Zelem will gradually move towards the backroom staff at United, says Paul Greaves, but not for a few years yet. KZ is a red through and through. I'm just thinking, I really want to get Jay-Z now. Because if the kid's going to be doing that as well, then Katie Zelem will become Casey.
Casey, yeah.
Casey. And I just wonder if we could get any more, maybe like an AZ, something like that. It would be amazing.
Interesting fact for you, Jay-Z and I share the same birthday. He's wrote a song.
Oh, right.
I think that's probably about all you share, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's not the same voice.
December the 4th, he's wrote a song about it as well.
There we go. Well, happy birthday for the day that comes in. Alan Stewart saying it's YouTube, which is why all these kids are doing it. And I mean, Mark will be with me on this one because he'll remember these. But do you remember telephones? They used to have the little dial ones, didn't they? And honestly,
I vaguely remember telephones. Yeah.
I've never understood this. Only recently did we get 111 as like as
Lost
like
again.
emergency service to call. Why was 999 our number for the emergency services? You've got someone in your house with a hammer about to have you, and you've got to dial 9. And when it gets round, you've got to wait for it to get all the way back round there. By the time you've got your second 9, I'll be surprised if you're still around. So that was really weird. Mobile phones, what a wonderful thing they ended up doing. I dived that. Here we go. Out of context. Absolutely. God, I won't remember telephones. I'm not sure he knows what a telephone is.
I think of the last time I saw a telephone with one of those wires, those sanguine wires. That goes back a while, doesn't it?
Unbelievable. Anyway, that's been floating around in my head, and it's gone now. So there we are. John, I know that you're a fan of Katie's and everything that she's done.
Yeah.
Do you think it's not a surprise, but do you think it's a coincidence that most of the people that say what they say about Katie Zellum have only really seen her on the TV? Because the minute they come out and see her and watch her live and see what she does across the whole pitch, they seem to be a lot more positive about her.
Yeah, definitely, because that was a bit like me to begin with, because I originally started watching games on the TV when I started watching women's, I didn't quite watch it, but as soon as I started going to games, and you pick up things when you go to games which you don't see on the television, you see the movement and everything, and that was when you realise, right, that's important. But it's just like you go back to like Michael Carrick for the men's team, he's like he didn't do anything flashy. She doesn't do anything flashy. That's why she doesn't get the credit she deserves. And this is why some of the fan base are like, well, what's she doing there? Because she doesn't do anything. Like from their perspective, it's completely wrong. And if I could use an analogy, I've always wanted to use this about Zellum. If you go to a rock concert, what's the reason you go to see that? You often go see the lead singer perform, see the guitarist play. You don't usually say, I go and see the bass player and all that. Whereas that's what Katie Zellum is, that she's the bass player. You don't really know, so you recognise the singer and the guitarist more. But if you take the bass player out of the rock band, you notice something's missing.
Half your rhythm section's gone.
Yeah, exactly. Your rhythm section's gone. And that's a rhythm, and this is where England's performance. The first 2 games were awful, but as soon as she got, say, Russo scores again. I mean, she won't score again because she'll never play with Russo again now, will she? So, but
the triangle player gone.
Yeah.
Connor, 48 minutes in. That's what you're looking for. 48 minutes in. That's your clip right there.
Yeah.
Get that out on Twitter or
about
X.
She's the background noise. She's the one that dictates the play. She's the one that controls the play.
Out of interest, how does your analogy work if it's the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra you've gone to watch?
She'd be the conductor.
Exactly. Yes.
I use that analogy when Connor did his review of the England game the other day. She's like a conductor composing the orchestra. That's what she does. Well, that's her job. She does it brilliantly. So
super duper. Annabelle and April are back, and they put here. Did anyone see MLT on GMB?
Yes.
Which sounds like some form of anagram type thing we've got to do there. I didn't. Did you, John?
I didn't watch the whole thing, but yeah, I saw on social media that she did appear on it. Yeah.
And what did they ask you? Why is it that Serena couldn't see what everybody else could see?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think she spoke mainly about like the support the Lionesses are getting and all that, and how it's attracting the country and all that. So yeah, that's what she went on to speak about.
Well done. Katie Zellum, just to finish off what she's done, she's had a little bit of a highlight appearance on the Man United website as well. And having looked through the app earlier on, I noticed that she'd put down her Dream England 11. So this is, 11 players who she would put as her number one players in those positions. And I was expecting to see an all-girl team, and that's not exactly what I saw. So, Mark, we're going to start with you, looking at the goalkeeper. She chose Mary Earps. Would you agree with me that Mary Earps is the greatest English goalkeeper to ever put on the jersey, full stop? I mean, it's possible. He might be struggling again with the audio. He's disagreeing.
What's your answer?
Out of there. Wow. Got 51 minutes in. What a highlight that's going to be. Throw that one in as well. What a highlight.
Don't show it to Mary.
Is Mary Earps the greatest English goalkeeper to ever put on the jersey?
That's an out of context moment.
Go on, Sharon. Take the question.
Yes.
Yeah, she is. She definitely is. You pick the goalkeepers, the yellow
It's very good morning, Britain.
There's a meme right there. To you, people.
Can you hear us, Mark?
I've returned. I'm sorry about this.
Mark, you're iconic. Honestly, the timing of that is just amazing. We couldn't hear what we were saying. But all we saw was after me asking the question was you just walk off.
I can't hear you again. I'm sorry.
Which was just amazing. But, the question was, is Mary Earps the greatest English goalkeeper to ever put on the
Sorry, I can just hear robots again.
That's what we all say.
We will give Mark the chance to put his audio back together. And whilst we're doing that, I'll run through the defence because I think we all agree Mary Earps is amazing. But John, we'll come to you on this one because the defence really surprised me. She went for Alex Greenwood as her left back, Leah Williamson and Rio Ferdinand as her centre backs, and then Reece James as a right back, which I found really interesting. What do you make of that back four?
Reece James is an interesting one because I do like Reece James, but the problem is he's always injured, isn't he? And I think it's interesting. I mean, Lucy Bronze is obviously a very decorated player, so I'm not sure that she's. I mean, if I was to pick a right back, I would personally go with Kieran Trippier. I think he's a very good right back. But for me, Alex Greenwood. But no, I wouldn't pick a City player ahead of Luke Shaw. So so for me, I would have gone Luke Shaw. But having said that, in defence, like you got like Maguire and John Stones and that, but you can't ignore Millie Bright or Williamson. They're very solid. I'd probably have Millie Bright in there. I think she's. She comes across as a female who could probably compete in the men's game. I think she just has that build about her. So I would have Millie Bright in there, but and then I'll go with Harry Maguire. Why not? So, but I think it's I think it's interesting what she's going. I think Alex Greenwood's obviously a very good player, women's game, but it's interesting. I'm glad she didn't put Jess Carter in there anyway.
This is what I mean. She put Alex Greenwood in at left back, which is like something we very rarely see her play anymore. There we go. Midfield wise, Mark, are you with us again?
I am, yeah. I do apologise for all this.
All right, it's hilarious. Don't worry.
Thank you. I'm glad to making you laugh anyway.
Honestly,
Sorry, what were you saying? Midfield.
I've nearly cried. Not in a sad way, in a try and keep it together way. But midfield wise, it was a really interesting three that she chose. She chose Farrah Williams, she chose Jude Bellingham, and she chose Kira Walsh. And in a way, is this not just totally Katie Zellum? because she's picked the one player who is probably the person that's keeping her out of the England team week in, week out. What do you make of that midfielder and that little statement that I've just given you?
I think for reasons we've discussed with Casey, she probably understands what a superb player Kira Walsh is, to be honest with you. She's another player, actually, who I've heard undervalued in the past. And I think before the Euros last year, when I think she really showed everyone how important she was for England. And I think it's entirely, I think Katie probably does see a lot of similarities in the way that they play, certainly the passing game. So I'm not surprised about that at all. I mean, Jude Bellingham's an interesting one, given that he's only just burst on the scene, really. I mean, quite clearly he's a superb prospect, but whether you'd kind of, and he's gone up to the other end of the scale then with Farrell Williams, who obviously has departed the scene recently. So it's curious, but again, I think all players perhaps that she that she sees something of herself in terms of, I could see all of those having a bit of Katie's element in them, and perhaps Farrell Williams, somebody she looked at when she was younger, somebody she could learn something from. But yeah, I tend to agree with the comment that's just come up there. I think Bellingham is still a bit unproven. He's a superb talent. He's a hell of a prospect. But I'm a bit surprised that she'd go for him at this stage, as opposed to some of the more established midfielders. I think it was John who mentioned Michael Carrick before when I was having some technical moments. I mean, to me, I agree with that, and I think he was undervalued for United in the way that Katie is as well. And I'd see him as somebody who's massively. I think he only had about 30 caps for England or something like that, and just kept going and got on with it, didn't he? And I think Katie probably, I'd see her more similar to him in terms of her attitude as well as where she plays.
Yeah. Carrick, Scholes, Lampard all missing, but poor old Dan won't be happy because Beckham's missing as well. So
Carrick was kept on the England team by Miss LGBT, who's got to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Adriana Leon is still a Manchester United player. Why is no one talking about her? Because I don't think she will be next season. I honestly think she's a top player, but sadly the gaffer doesn't rate her, and it's baffling. I don't think it's anything to do with whether she's rated or not. I think if Adriana Leon decides she wants to play for Man United and puts the effort in, I think she'll be chosen. Would be my personal opinion on it, but there's got to be a reason why she's been signed and then immediately shipped off, and that's the only thing I can think of. Paul Greaves saying you cannot leave Scholes out. Well, I think you'll find she can, and she has, whether we agree with it or not. But personally, I would have chosen Scholes over Bellingham as well. Sarah, we'll go to you for the attackers, which was the final three people. And she chose Kelly Smith, arguably one of the finest and greatest strikers that England have produced, certainly in the women's game. And then the next two, she went Wayne Rooney, fully understandable, makes sense. And this last one, Phil Foden.
Yeah, sorry, I can't. I have to go.
Bobby Charlton. Oh, she's off as well now. I'm like, Phil Foden one has thrown me a bit.
Yeah, I mean the other two. I mean Rooney, indisputable. One of the greatest. Kelly Smith as well. One of the first players that I learned about when I was a little girl, realizing, oh my God, women play football professionally. And I remember seeing this video that she did with Beckham, and yeah, it was just a shame that she played for Arsenal at the time. But yeah, absolutely. Foden, yeah, I mean, look, definitely very good player, but I don't know if I'd put him in an all-time list, and not just because of who he plays for, but I'm not actually sure who I would put in there. I'd struggle to settle on one player, but
very, very interesting. Jennifer Jordan there's put Karen Carney as well, which is again a very interesting choice and idea. So yeah, Mark, John, any other things that any of you wanted to add about that team before we move on to our final little question?
The second time in a week, so Bobby Charlton's been ignored.
Yes, that's it.
Well, I'm a bit surprised how she's not put Harry Kane in there, actually.
Mm.
Possibly That's the only one other you got to say. But yeah, not sure about Farrah Williams, to be honest.
She actually said some interesting bits. So when she chose Wayne Rooney, she said he was his all-time favourite player. She was going to play him as a number 10, but needed to fit Kelly Smith in. So sorry, Harry Kane, you're going to have to miss out this time, which seems fair enough to me as well. She also, like I say, chose Rio Ferdinand and Mary Earps, but yeah, very interesting to see some of those people. Right, final question time. And really what it comes down to is we briefly mentioned it earlier, the Conti Cup. We know we've got a huge opportunity to make it into the Champions League this season and to miss out those ridiculous group stages. But if the worst were to happen and we didn't manage to make it through into the group stages of the Champions League, and therefore we had to return and play Conti Cup football, the group we would be in would be Everton, Leicester, Liverpool, and Man City. Now, a lot of people saying they don't like that group. I'm wondering if part of that is because if you were to put that in the men's game, you'd look at that and go, oh my goodness, that's terrible. In the context of the women's game, perhaps with the exception of Man City, Sarah, do you not, Mark on this one, do you not think we would win all of those, or should win all of those games? Like I say, bar the Man City one.
I'd like to think we would. I mean, clearly they're all Super League teams, so I suppose you know there's that. That's the reason why people are saying it's a tough group, really. But certainly Liverpool and Leicester any day. Everton are an interesting one for me. I sometimes feel that if they got the right coach and started to get together a bit, there's talent in that side, and they could actually do something. So I'm almost expecting Everton to sort of maybe do something like Villa did last season, and maybe offer something a bit that they haven't in the past. It's never happened yet, but I keep expecting it to happen at some point. I don't think we need to fear any of those teams. I mean, we were, for me, right from the start of last season, we had a better squad than City. And I said it at the start of the season, and there was nothing that, made me think otherwise. City signed Jill Road, very good signing. But from what I hear, they're unlikely to sign anybody else, or that they're certainly not looking at signing too many big name players. If they don't significantly sign, I mean, we're talking about our lack of signings. Really, to me, City really seriously need to strengthen that squad. I don't think there's anything to fear from them at the moment, even with our own lack of newcomers. So yeah, I'd be pretty confident in that group stage. Yeah, and we avoid Durham, which is always nice.
That is a great point. The fact that we haven't drawn Durham. It's typical, isn't it? The 1 year we're not meant to be in it. They go, we won't make them play Durham. Absolutely outrageous. Who does these draws? Sarah, what's your thoughts on that as a group stage?
Yeah, I mean, to begin with, I thought, City, but then, yeah, they're all good points. And I mean, we gave them a run for their money last season. There's no reason why we can't beat them. And, if people were obviously there's always teams you want to avoid, but I sometimes think when people are sort of fearful of coming up against certain teams, it's like, well, why? You want to test yourself, obviously, and you want to have faith in your team that they can do it. They absolutely can. So yeah, I wouldn't be too worried about that. I think bring it on, as long as they don't, perform as badly as they did at that stage last season. Then I don't see the problem, really. Yeah. Certainly not with the other three teams.
John, with regards to the group, is our biggest problem just our depth? If we think to this season, just gone, that clearly seems to be the problem. We were trying to put the players that hadn't had much game time in the WSL in, and they didn't really all manage to perform together as well as perhaps would have liked them to. Is that the issue?
Yeah, that's true. And obviously, some of the most vocal fans, as we know, demanded we play certain players. When they did get their opportunity in the Conti Cup, they disappointed. We didn't get the results when we should have done. Villa was probably the hardest game of the group, but the Durham game was just, no way we should have lost that. We drew it and then lost some penalty, but we should have won that. Obviously, in regards to the group, there's one way to avoid it, isn't there? So I just think you got to be positive now. If we don't get through in the Champions League, then it is a groups look forward. So I do like groups where you test yourself, all that. But I do think it comes back to what we were saying at the start. We got to get a few players in for squad depth. But hopefully, if we get through in the Champions League, we won't have to worry about the group, will we?
This is brilliant. All for United. Can I comment again? Wouldn't let me comment for the last 15 minutes. Go on, YouTube.
He blocked himself.
I did.
He blocked
Did
himself.
I put you in time out? No, I did. Certainly not that I'm aware of. But yeah, other people have managed to put comments in. So perhaps your computer just went, do you know what? Less from you. But there we go. We don't censor people on this channel.
My computer's telling me the same thing as well. Sorry, go on.
The last question is literally a one-word answer. And the question is simply this. We've spoken about the Conti Cup. We've spoken about our squad. Are we going to be in the Champions League or the Conti Cup? Where do you see us going? I know, obviously, we don't know our Champions League opponents yet to get through, so I know that's a bit of a trickier one. But what is your heart and your head telling you? Are we going to make it into the group stages? Do we have enough about us to do that first time? Or are we going to be back in the Conti? Mark?
Yes, we'll be in the Champions League.
Confidence. Love that.
I can't think anything. It's too horrible to contemplate not doing it, having got on the verge of it. It's just horrible to go. I just really crave those Champions League nights for the women. I've been looking forward to it for so long. I just can't even consider it not happening now.
Nice. This is just unsubstantiated rumours. I have not pushed anything. So unless you put yourself in a timeout, then I don't know what you're talking about on that one. But there we go. Jennifer also saying she had trouble. And I would never mute Jennifer because she's amazing. And Chris saying one of the biggest things for this season is we need to Chelsea. I presume that's beat Chelsea. Or
do the double, Barry.
Exactly, beat Chelsea. Annabelle and April, they're all coming through now. Perhaps they've all been. Perhaps there's been an issue at YouTube, and that's why everything's coming through now. There's been a bit of a delay. Who knows? But there we go. Sarah,
bit like our signings. The delay.
Yeah, but they'll come through eventually.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That influences my answer. Like, it depends on, the signings that we make, but I'm going to be confident and say Champions League. I mean, obviously that's what my heart tells me, but yeah, why not? That's what everybody wants, and that's what they're going to be striving for. So just have to trust them. Champions League.
Okay. Big Johnny K.
Oh, Champions League, easy.
Champions League, easy.
Well,
there we go.
We get
that as well. That's 1 hour and 8 minutes.
Yeah, Champions League.
And Jennifer's gone for it. She meant it. It's about attitude. Win it or suffer more seconditis. Absolutely. Seconditis. It's a great word. I love it. And yeah, maybe it's the same internet provider as Mark. Bless him. Bless him. He has done his very best.
I wonder what was that the time when Mark went off? Was that the time where the comments stopped?
Who knows?
Yeah, my internet provider's taking it all with him. Yeah.
So there we go. That will be in whichever internet provider's data survey that is. But there we go. Listen, ball of a night. It's been an absolute banger. I'm so pleased that we did this. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming through.
Thank you.
Sarah, do you want to give a little shout out for your little corner of the internet?
Absolutely. It's reddevilwomen.com, and these two fantastic gentlemen have contributed to it as well. So read all their articles. They're brilliant.
Thank you.
That one.
Thank you.
The ones below us, what I'm trying to say. They're nothing to do with me. On this one,
you're welcome to do it as well.
See what time I've got. I've got loads to do for Stevenage still.
Stevenage women, Barry. Yes.
Hi again, John.
Stevenage women, isn't it?
That's it. You see, by all means, do go on that if you've got the chance. Stephen Jeff CW, go and like and subscribe that. Even if you don't want to watch it, that would just really help me. Thank you. But there we go. Big Johnny K is going to be on his way to America soon. How long till you finally leave us and join the land of the Pants?
3 weeks today.
3 weeks today.
So yeah, it's a big time. So I'm really busy. So it's exciting, and hope to. I'm demanding to call in. We get cable so I can watch both men and women this season. So yeah.
Well, it'll be easier to watch the men, I would imagine, apart from the time difference, because the games are all on there as well, aren't they, over there?
Well, yeah, I think the women most games are Sunday 12 o'clock, aren't they? So that'll be about 7 o'clock in the morning, American time. So yeah, I'll have to have a word with our Beth.
Well, listen, the one you need to get into most of all is to get your internet provider sorted out, so we can still get you on All for United at times as well. But there we go. So do go and follow Big Johnny K. You won't find it. Don't search Big Johnny K on Twitter. Don't do it. You never know what you're going to find. Just go @_commode2. I'm taking no responsibility for what you find. I'm also trying to fill time because Mark's having a little bit of an issue. I do want to give him a chance just for him to shout himself out with what he's done. We'll talk about there we go. Talk about Annabelle and April. They said what a great idea though. They should have a mixed team play against another mixed team. England's obviously talking about the Katie's LM11 against Ireland men or women. Yes, that would be great fun.
That'd be another level of soccer aid, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Level, that'd be brilliant.
Absolutely. So we could do that. Jennifer's suggesting a farewell show for JK. I'm pretty sure we could do that. And of course, Paul also saying you get the 3 o'clock Saturday games live in America as well. Yeah. But Mark is with us, so let's get him to, before the internet takes him away permanently, we never see him again. Mark, a little chance just for you to give a little shout out with regards to some of the articles and other places that people can hear some of your brilliant words of wisdom once again.
Yeah, well, whether the words of wisdom, I shall leave other people to decide, of course. But yeah, I contribute to occasionally to Sarah's blog. I also write for Barmy Article and also take part in the podcasts quite regularly for that as well. I also have a novel out called Balls, which if you wish to check it out, it's available on Amazon and paperback and Kindle version. So just a little plug there for my novel. A slightly light-hearted look at a situation where a woman becomes in charge of a League One men's team.
Sounds great.
With hilarious results. Balls.
So again, search that at your peril. It's up to you what you're looking for there, but be careful.
Just type balls in so you can see what comes.
Honestly, we've got a little bit X-rated here at the end, but there we are. It can happen. So just be careful. Put your safe search on and stay safe out there. We've had a cracking time. Cheers, Mark. Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me.
Brilliant to have you all on. Well done in the comments. You've been absolutely awesome. Seconditis, something that Connor feels at the moment because he's only had 70 appearances on AFU and I'm getting close to 100. I'll be there, I think, by August, the end of August. We'll see. But there we go. Superb stuff. Well done, everyone. Join the men's channel tomorrow. Saturday Night Live will be back where we're all going to talk about what we think the opening lineup should be for the weekend after, when we have our very first game of the season, and then join us here on the women's channel at some point next week, probably Monday night, I would imagine, where we discuss how the Lionesses have got on against Nigeria, where hopefully Katie Bellum has absolutely smashed them. See you later.